try to print the value, okay, unsa may i-return jud niya. Okay? How are true and false represented here when using conditional operators? Okay? Anyone? Okay, base sa inyohang na hinumduman. And let me create a new source file. Okay. So hello, anyone? Oh, to avoid mirror, don't share the entire screen or browser window. Share just a tab or different windows installed. Okay. Sige. Sige guys, unsa man dyo i-return ana? Okay? Kanang greater than, less than, equal to. Okay? What does this value return to us? Okay? O asa man ang answer ani? 92 bag. Okay. So naan siya gibutang nga 1 or 0. Okay? So you could actually check that out if you make use of your print function. Okay? So pwede na nato siya i-display as to unsa joy value nga mogawas if ever we try to make use of the so-called conditional operators. Okay? So since there actually there is the so-called boolean type, okay, that we can use, but it will be making use of an additional library. Okay, so for the meantime, I will just not make use of that data type nga bool, okay, which stands for boolean, meaning it can only have two values, true or false. But instead, I'll just make use of how C represents the so-called true and false value. So for instance, if we're gonna be using unsa man tong first operator nga gipakita niya dire, okay? Your equals operator, okay? So using a constant value, we make use of this, okay? So take note lang, there's a difference between a single equal sign and a double equal sign. A single equal sign is an assignment operator, whereas if you make use of double equal sign, that is your conditional operator, okay? Or the relational operator. So let's say 5 is equal to 5, okay? What will that give us, guys? Okay? So running the code, oops, let me save this first. First sem class 112. Okay. And naano pod ning sakit niya nga dili ma-adjust. Okay. So as what we can see here, okay, as an output of using the equals operator, since 5 is equal to 5, so it will give us 1. So if in case you use another number that is not equal to 5, again, running the code, okay, so that will give us a value of 0. Okay, so basically, okay, when you make use of conditional statement, 0 means, unsa ganito guys, false. Okay, and 1 is equivalent to true. Okay, so I think maura na siya guys ang concept sa relational operators or kaning gitawag niya diri nga conditional operators. Okay? So for this type of operators, these are referred to as binary operators. Okay? So nganong binary operators man siya? Because for you to make use of this operator, you would need, okay, two operands. Okay? So you have one operand on the left side and another operand on the right side of the operator. Okay? So how about kaning kuan? What's the difference between greater than and greater than or equal to? Okay? Yes, Mr. Amandak?
Kuan sir, sa greater than sir, usara iyang condition sir. Ya, sa greater than or equal to kay duha. Greater
Okay.
or equal.
Greater or equal. So, if you try to expound kanang greater than or equal to, okay, it will be a combination of a greater than operation o kaning gitawag nato nga or operation. Okay? So, this operation, okay, exclamation, double ampersand, o double pipeline are what we called as logical operator. Okay? So, if we try to review this, unsa may gamit anang exclamation mark. Okay? So, kanang exclamation mark, guys, ang gamit ana niya is not operation. So, what is a not operation? Palihon niya. Okay? So, let's say for example, when you say true, okay, that one is true. Kunuhay, naalang tayo mga conditions that says true. And you make use of the exclamation mark. Okay? So, if you run that, palihon niya. Ang true mahimong false. Okay? So, let's say for example, if you say false also, then running the code, unsay inverse sa false mahimong true. So let's say for instance, moingon ka og kani 5 is equal to 4. Okay? So if you run this, okay, this will give you 0. Okay? Now, take note, as a unary operator, kana exclamation is a unary operator. That means if you write this expression, unahon na niya ang evaluation aning exclamation mark 5. Okay? So what we need to do is ato ang i-inverse ang ato ang unang statement, which is 5 is equal to 4. Og ni mata na ang manok. Okay? So, nagdungan nagsilag tilaok diri sa mo ada. Okay? So anyway, as we look at this, guys, kabaw na ta this is false, but if you invert that, the expression becomes true. Okay? So something like this. So let's say for instance lang, naalang kay condition pod. Okay? Let's use that so-called greater than. Okay? So mingon kag 5 greater than 4, that is supposed to be true. But if you make use of the exclamation mark symbol or the not operation, this will give you, or this will be evaluated as false. So in short, ang exclamation mark is like a negation sa imuhang conditions. Okay? So are we clear on that one?
Yes sir.
Okay. Now how about the and symbol? Okay? Unsa man ni pasabot aning and nga operation? Okay? So as what we can see here, if the first condition is false, then the second condition need not be checked anymore. Okay? So for the statement to be true as stated here, dapat both condition are true. So again, to understand that better, guys, okay, it is better if you associate it with series circuit. Okay? So are you familiar with series operation sa physics? Are you familiar of that, guys? Series connection. So imagine if these switches are your conditions. Okay? So bisag pila pa na siya ka condition, guys. Okay? So let's say you have a variable here A, B, and C that represents the condition kung true ba or false. So kung naka-open ang switch, that means off. And when you say off, it is synonymous with false. Okay? So being an AND operation using the 2 ampersand, okay, what it does is that for the condition to be true, when you say true, musiga ang suga, dapat all switches must be turned on. Okay? Now, if one of the switches is turned off, so unsa expected? Musiga ba ang suga? Dili.
Dili, sir.
Dili, di ba? So, unsa man sa nipasabot ani niya sa condition nga if the first condition is false, then the second condition is not checked anymore. Okay? So, this is one of the property of the so-called AND operation. When you evaluate an expression, okay, let's say moingon kag A ampersand B ampersand C. Okay? Now, the moment nga i-evaluate niya ni A, if A is already 0, di na niya i-check pa si B o si C. Okay? For what reason? Again, if you look at our circuit here, if si A naka-off, do you need to check pa kung ang suga ba is naka-on or naka-off? Diba? No need na. Kaya nga naman, you know that this is already open. So that means there is no way that the condition would be true given that nay usa ka condition nga naka-false. Okay? So, mao na siya guys ang pasabot aning if the first condition is false, then the second condition is not checked anymore. Okay? That is what we call as the short circuit condition. Okay? So that means di na niya itiwas og evaluate ang imong expression. Okay? Now the same is also true with the OR operation. Okay? So with the OR operation guys, okay? It is synonymous with unsa to nga circuit?
Parallel, sir.
Parallel. Okay. So, mura na siya parallel circuit. Okay, wherein for the condition to be evaluated as false, dapat tanang input should be false. Okay? So, ingani pod ang inyuhang dapat huna-hunaon when you are using the double pipeline or the so-called OR operator. Okay? So makita man sad nato diri napod siya kanang gitawag nato nga short circuit condition. The moment nga let's say evaluate niya sa imong expression like this. Okay? So again, when you evaluate the expression, it is from left to right. Now, if si A palang daan is 1, again, automatic the circuit or the expression will be evaluated as true. No need na kamo check ni B o ni C kay nganuman. Again, when you look at the circuit here, once si A naka-on, you don't need to check B and C to check kung on ba ang suga. Kay the fact nga naka-on na si A, there's already a path for the current to flow padung sa circuit. Okay? And that, guys, is how your OR operation works. Okay? So, nasabtan ra ba ang OR? Okay? Now, let's say for example, katong greater than o equals. Okay? So, that greater than or equals nga relational operator is actually just equivalent to you saying okay. So it's just like a combination of greater than and equal symbol. Nga gipa-simplify lang. So it's just like saying like this. If A is greater than B, okay, then gamit kag OR operation, which is, unsa ganito, A equal to B. Okay? So parihar na siya guys nga operation sa kani. A is greater than or equal to B. So instead of writing this statement na medyo taas na kaayo, okay? So the programmers provided us with this operator, okay? To shorten the expression. Okay? So more nang pasabot ana kanang sa greater than or equals nga symbol. Okay? Gi-merge lang na niya ang duha ka operation sa greater than og equals. Okay? So, I think more na siya ang operator. Okay? Now, the if, okay, statement. Okay? What do you need to supply inside this open close parenthesis, okay, when using the if statement? So it simply states that you put a condition. So with conditions, okay, you could either make use of um, logical operators or you can make use of conditional operators or katuato ang gitawag nga relational operator. Okay, so actually dili kay na siya strict with regards to that one as long as na numerical value nga makita niya. Okay? So let's say di ko mo gamit og operator, I'll just put there a constant value of either 1 or 0. Okay? So I'll put this one for instance. True. Okay? So gamit ko if. Okay? And then so if you put there 1, so surely the word true is printed. Okay? So if you put there a value of 0, okay, nothing is printed. Kay kabauta with if statement, di ba, it will only enter this condition and perform the operation inside it if the condition supplied is true. Okay? But kung false, di na niya i-execute. Now, aside from 0 or 1, can the if statement also evaluate other values like -1? Okay? So if I put there -1 and run the code, okay, as you can see, it still evaluates that number nga -1 to be true. Okay? So likewise, if let's say for example, 24, okay, I run that code. Again, it displays true. So in short, DI, when you are supplying conditions on the so-called conditional statements, if, okay, as long it is not a 0 value, it will be considered as true ang condition. Okay? While if the value is 0, numerical 0, then that's the time it will be considered as false nga statement. Okay? So okay ra guys, naray bagong nahibaw-an, okay, about the condition, creating conditions. So you need not make use of kani. Okay? Mga relational operators or logical operators. But of course, that's the whole point of using the if statement. Okay? Naa kay condition. Okay? But again, as long as na value ibutang nimo dira, a 0 or non-zero, it will still be evaluated. Okay? Now, let's say if we go back to our previous topic, okay, katong topic na to on basic control structure. Okay? So I do believe you still remember remember this flowchart? Okay? Kahinumdum pa mo ana, guys.
Gamay.
Gamay. Okay? So, for us to implement this, okay, you would need the else condition, wherein the else would be that part of the code that would represent the other things that you need to do if in case the condition is evaluated as false. Okay? So take note, with if statement lang, ang imuharang ma-control ana niya is ang mga unsay buhaton if the statement is true. Okay? Wala kay option unsay buhaton if the statement is false. Okay? So I do believe na gets ra na ninyo nga part kay naa man ni daghang example diri sa CodeCham. Asa naman to si CodeCham? Okay? So makita nato diri sa CodeCham nga if let's say for example ang imuhang concern lang are conditions nga if evaluated as true na kay buhaton, then you can use the if statement. Okay? However, if there are options like you need to do something else, if the condition is not true, then you make use of the unsa na to siya? The if else statement. So mo ning gingon niya turn between the two. Okay? Mura mag unsa no? Okay? Between the two unsa ba lovers unsa. Okay? So you make use of the else nga statement. Okay? Now, something you should also take note guys when using the if or the if else statement, okay, is the use of curly brackets. Okay? So, what are the curly brackets used for again? Okay, unsay gamit anang curly brackets, guys? Kung nakahinumdum mo when our discussion in functions. Ow. Yay. Okay. What were they used again? The curly brackets? Anyone remembers?
Block, sir. Block na siya, sir.
Block. Okay. So starts with an S. Kompleto ha. Block. Blank, block.
System
Start-
blank, sir.
Source block.
Abi, nag-start mag-S. Tanang S na lang. Okay.
Start
Hapit na.
block, sir. Start block.
Di sad.
System, sir.
Di sad.
Syntax
Longer.
block.
Mas taas
Statement
pa.
block. Statement block.
Statement.
Oh,
Statement.
kana. Statement block. Okay. Now, is the curly bracket mandatory for the if statement? What do you think? Okay, have you tried using the if statement without the curly brackets? So actually, we can use this so-called if statement without the curly brackets, guys. Okay, I think murag wala na ma-emphasize diri no sa CodeCham no nga pwede siya.
Na,
Okay.
sir.
Oh, naa di ay. Okay? So, when do we not use curly brackets? According sa inyong nagyan sa CodeCham.
Is dili daghan ang kuan, sir, ang nasa function.
Okay. So, if there's only one statement, okay, that is to be executed for the if nga statement. Okay? Now, let's say for example, you do this one. Print if. Okay? So let's say I'll write in there hello. Okay? So if we run this, unsay ma-display? Okay, if I run this, unsay expected na to makita, guys?
Ang true ra, sir.
Ang
True niya.
true.
Tupad.
Okay. So 9 ingon, ang answer is true lang. Okay? Napoy ni answer nga unsa to?
True, sir niya. Tupad hello.
Ang
True.
hello, sir.
Ang ay
Niya,
true, sir.
dapat
Ang first
hello.
line, tas ang second line kay hello.
Okay. So, check na to. Okay? So, unsa may answer? So, sakto ni siya. True, hello. Now, what if I set the statement to be false? Okay? Unsa may ma-execute?
Wala.
Hello
Okay?
ra, sir.
Ay, oh.
So, nainiingon wala, nasa iniingon hello. Okay? So, asa man jud ani? Okay, kinsay mo vote aning walay ma-display?
Ako, sir.
Raise your hand. Okay, nay usa. How about hello lang? Kinsay mo vote aning hello ray ma-display? Okay? So, nay duha. Nya, kinsa may di sure sa ilang answer? Isang kamot. Or kanang galibog. Okay? So, medyo daghan pang galibog. Okay? Now, as you can see here, guys, when you talk about C programming, okay, space, okay, are not recognized by C. Okay? So for all we know, we could write the statement all on the same column like this. Okay? Now if I run this, okay, ang ma-display dira hello lang. What happened? Nganong hello raman? Okay? Again, simply because if you don't utilize a statement block, okay, it will only recognize the first statement after the conditional statement. Kanira nga statement ay considered niya the things that this will perform. Okay? So nindot lang na siya gamiton kung usa-usa. Okay? Now, be it usa, duha, tulo, it is always a good practice, guys, to always make use of open curly brackets. Okay? So it has been utilized kaning sa unsa ni Mira standard. Okay? So it's like a coding standard for car manufacturing. Okay? So kanang sa ilahang gitawag na firmware para control sa mga sakyanan, okay, they always make use of curly brackets despite the fact nga there's only one line of statement ang ihang i-perform. That is to prevent kana bang lipat-lipat nga mga problem. Okay? So this will ensure manggod ang curly brackets. This would ensure us that we only will perform the particular set of statements that needed to be performed if the condition is true. Okay? So makita day nimo at a glance kung unsay dapat niyang i-perform. Unlike kung wala siya statement block like this. Okay? So if you don't put a statement block, usually ang buhaton nato when we write the code is you just put an indentation to signify that if you perform this statement, ang sulod niya would only be this statement ang iyang i-perform. But again, with C programming manggod, it is easy to make mistakes. Okay? So what if it was written like this, only in a single line? Okay, how would you evaluate that? Okay, so naiuban, labi nag-inganion, no? Alipat yun sila. They would think nga in an if statement, okay, kay tungod kay naa may indention, it will perform these two lines. But since wala man magamit og open close curly bracket, that means it will only be performing one statement, and that statement is the next statement after the if nga condition. Okay? So remember that, okay? Kay daghan kay malipat ani, okay, nga situations. Okay? So what else? Mo na siya sa if else, guys, nga statement. Okay? Asa naman tong usa nako ka wa na ko ka-follow sa ako ang notes da. So anyway, again, when you are trying to implement your flow chart, okay, remember when you use your condition and your statement block for the flow chart. Okay? So every time makakita tag diamond, we could actually make use of if statement for that. Okay? So if you look at the flow chart, if you make use of an if condition, this is how we represent this in your flow chart. Okay? So natay condition, which is kani, and then your statement nga perform, which is dere. Okay? So again, if there's only a single statement, it is optional to make use of curly brackets. But if you have statements, make sure to put square brackets or the statement block. Okay? But again, to make sure lang jud, be it usara ka statement, always put curly brackets. Okay? So again, here is just an example wherein if we are to, unsa ganito, how do we convert this into a program kung makakita taging ani? Okay? O kulang man. Okay? Input an integer value which is num. So automatic gamit ka og scanf. Okay? So you use your if statement to evaluate the expression num is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? So if the statement is true, okay? So if the statement is true, oh, if the statement is true, asam to akong pen. Okay? So if the statement is true, then it displays the value positive. Okay? So if we look at a flowchart like this, could you imagine how the program will look like, guys? Sige daw. Type ko no ang code sa chat box. Okay? Hello, are you still here? Sige daw. Could someone type in the code for this flowchart? Guys, are you still with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you now writing the code? Okay, sige. I'll be waiting for your code here in the chat box. Okay, so simple ra kay ni siya, guys. So review lang ato ang gibuhat based sa inyong i-follow na course last time. Okay. Okay, sus paspasang Eric. Oh. Sige, try na to. Okay. So kasagaran no, when you were answering CodeCham, okay, majority medyo anhi nasangit sa logic error. Okay? And sometimes anhi magproblema kana bang wala mabutang space or nasubraan og space. Okay? So try to read, guys, ang problem carefully. So naman to yung mga sample output nga gipangayo niya, like for example dire. Okay, makabantay mo aning very fine print. Asa naman to? Kani? So kanang dot dira nga makita ninyo, pasabot ana, that is the number of space that you will be providing between these two printable characters. Okay? So specific kayo si CodeCham ana when checking your work. So you have to follow kung pila ka box spaces ibutang. Okay? So let's try to see. So this is the work of Mr. Victoria. Okay, so it asks us to input a number. So this is an input nga symbol. So that means gamit ta og scanf. Now since that is an integer, basically Mr. Victoria created a variable num of type int. Okay? So sinam kabauta is already an integer and we try to compare it with the value of 0 if it's greater than or equals ba. So mo ni siya nga part sa to ang code. And then if the condition is true, then it says positive. Okay? Now if this is to be run in CodeCham, okay, will this be evaluated as correct or wrong? What do you think, guys?
Dili sir, kay uppercase ang positive.
Okay. Uppercase ang positive. Uppercase
Ay, parang tanan, capital
uppercase
tanan.
there.
Capital
Sige,
na.
sige. So kung ako ang i-capital, positive. Okay? Would that be evaluated by Coach Cham as correct?
Kuhaon sa na kano else.
Okay. Tangtangon na to ang else. Okay? Kaya nga naman, sakto naman to sir. Kaya kung dili siya greater than 0, that means it is negative. But gipangayo ba na ni Coach Cham? Okay, so
Wala.
manay take note ninyo. Though it's logical that you can put there the answer nga print if negative if the condition is false, but if it is not asked of you, okay, ayaw po dihatag. Okay? So, matod pang ibara, woman moment. Ingana ba mo girls? Ayay, murag di
Agoy.
siguro. Mas ganahan jud ng mga girls nga pasubraan nimo kung unsay ilang gipangayo, di ba, girls? Okay.
Opo.
Ala, si Rex malinog lagi
Ni oo lagi ka. Babae.
Okay, so anyway, mao na siya guys. Okay? Sa code cham. So be very careful about that. Okay? Kay that will be considered as logic error when you are trying to evaluate the expression. So again, running the code. Okay? So example lang, kung wala gani mangayo nga butangan nimo og print if before the scan if, ayaw lang sa jud butangi. So later na siya butangi ana if let's say for example free form nga programming wherein you are to choose how you would present your program. But for like example mga competitions, kay sa upcoming competition biya nato pohon, they will be using CodeCham, and when they use CodeCham, that means very specific siya kung unsay makita nimo sa output. Okay? So let's say, let's put 8. So since that is a number that is greater than or equal to 0, then therefore, it is evaluated to be true and it will print the word positive. Okay? So mo na siya guys. Okay? So I think if you look at this one, maura manghapon no, dali ra kaayo. Okay? So it will allow the user to input a score of a student. If the score is greater than or equal to 50, it will print the message, "Congratulations, you pass." So again, based ani niya, pare-pareha ra gyapon flowchart ang gamiton, but ang imuhang usbon lang is ang condition. Imbis nga 0, you put there 50. And you change the printf value from positive to congratulations. Okay, unsa ganito?
You pass, sir.
You pass. Okay, naadi ay. You pass. Okay, so ingon na lang. Okay, so ingon na ra ka simple ang if nga statement. Okay. So again, in these notes nga ako niyang i-upload, there are more exercise problems that you may want to answer. So during your free time, try to practice on that one. Okay? So if else statement, okay? So katong topic sa turn between the two. Okay? So if true, then you perform something. If false, you can also perform something, and you can use the else statement for that. O nganong nakuha nga ni siya. Let me correct that one first kay bisag malimtan. Okay. So again, just like sa previous if statement nga discussion, if there's only one statement, just like the if sa else, you could also not put curly brackets if there's only one statement nga dapat nimong ibutang. Okay? So parehara na siya. Optional ang curly brackets if only one statement is to be performed for each condition. But again, as a good practice in programming, okay, butangin na lang jud na permi og open close curly brackets. Okay? Iwas disgrasya. Okay? So the Boolean expression, as stated there, evaluated to be true, then if the statement will be executed, otherwise the else block will be executed if the condition is said to be false. So I think di kayo na siya problema, no? Simple ra kaayo. Okay? So, wa may nindot nga kwan diri o kaniyo. Okay? So, if the value is less than 50, so you can put there, sorry, you fail. So that's an option that you can do if the condition, okay, is rendered to be false. Okay? So you can just say here, sorry, you failed. Okay? So nga na lang ang sample code na to. Again, so very simple ra. Input a number. So let's say you have 45. So you failed. Ug you. Okay? Mao di ay. Okay? So I think does everyone understand na the if else statement? Okay? So very simple ra kayo ang concept ng if else nga statement. Okay? So again, here are more examples given you have a flow chart and you are to convert it into a program. Okay? So how about this one? I think dali raman no, guys? Okay? Sige daw, try to answer this daw. Then put it on the chat box. Ako na to, kinsay pinakauna makahuman. Okay? So you can use kanang gibuhat ni Mr. Kuano? Mr. De La Victoria as your template. Okay, try to modify that and let's see if someone could finish this in 1 minute time. So the time is 9:58. Ako na to, naabay makasubmit by 9:59. Sige daw, just put the answer in the chat box. Luoy kayo ang magagamit og cellphone karon. Dugay kay mahuman. Okay? Sige, there are 4 inputs. 9:58. Okay. Og 9:59 na. Okay, nabay nag-answer?
Basta sir, 30 seconds pa sir.
30 seconds pa di ay. Sige, 30 seconds pa.
25 pa din sir, 25 pa.
Okay, sige, ano na to. Kinsay pinakapaspas ani. Okay. Let me check daw ba sa CodeChamp. Kinsay pinakapaspas na ka-answer sa CodeChamp. Okay, so we have the leaderboard in CodeChamp. Check daw na to sa ato ang scores. Okay. So I think the others are still answering kay nakaabot naman siya og ano, 63%. Okay? So number 1 sa ranking na to is si Hala. Kinsa ning Brexer? Codino?
Ha, ako na sir.
Okay.
Oh.
Mao day. Okay, so na-finish niya in asa man tong time diri na mo time supposed to be. Okay, so this is for the lesson. Okay, so may nakauna og human. Okay, wa may kibutang ang kwan time. Okay, so ang pinakadugay ayaw na lang. Okay, so katong mga pinakadugay mo ninyo hang kwan no, ang rank to beat. Okay. And then sa activity na to, check na to. Kinsay pinakauna sa activity. Okay. Where is the activity? Activity number 2 in CodeChamp. Okay. So number 1 is si Miss Igot. Okay. So Miss Igot was able to answer the problems, pila to kabuk problems, 6 kabuk problems, okay, in 40 minutes time. Okay? So makita na to, nawag tang nalagi itong shortcut diri lagi. Okay. Nawag tang ang shortcut. Was that window up or window down?
Animal science books.
Or control?
Animal science books.
Okay. Wala man. Hindi na mamugana ang shortcut. Okay. So, mo na inyuhang kwan guys, inyuhang target sunod. Okay? Nga sa sunod activity, try to finish it in less than 40 minutes. Okay?
Why did you put baby?
Ug asa naman tong answering? Lapas namang 1 minute. Wala pa'y nakahuman. Okay?
Nalimot sa question, sir.
Ala, grabe. Sige ka na. Passing mark is 60%. Okay? Luuya, no? Kung igo ra ka 60, okay? Or less than 60, then you fail. Okay.
No, teacher, I just had 5.
So if true, you print fail. If false, you print pass. Okay? So again, this is just one of the possible solution, okay, for the problem. Okay? Now, if grade is less than 60, you fail. Okay? So you could also modify that. Okay? So you can also use condition like if grade is greater than or equal. Okay? Oh, there. Kinsa may pinakauna ba? Og itagsa-tagsa jud ninyo og scan if. Okay, mao day nadugay. Okay, so let's try to make use of Mr. Canonigo's answer. Okay, mao may nakauna. So, kuan ra jud sila, gasunod ra jud sila Mr. Umandak and Mr. Canonigo. Okay? So, let's run their code. Okay. Ug. What happened? Okay, so there is an error. What is grade? Okay, so naikulang kang Mr. Canonigo. Okay. So what's the error ani guys? Again, if we look at the code, can you see the problem? Okay, wala niya ma-define si grade. Okay. So, that means, kang Mr. Umandak maoy valid nga answer. Kay mas kompleto. Okay? So, running the code. Uy! Unsa man sa error ani? Kana guys. Sige, troubleshoot. Think like a compiler. Walay
semicolon.
why semicolon.
Wala sa na-address, sir.
Okay.
Wala na-address, wala yung ampersand.
Wa say.
Ampersand, sir. Ni
Ampersand.
Gali sa imuan, sir, ay. Kani imuan.
So, unsay mahitabuan ni guys kung walay ampersand?
Mula ho siya,
One.
sir.
Ang una ray ang makon.
Ang una ray unsa ning error?
Mabutang.
Maskan.
Una ray maskan. Okay? Nyara daw.
So, spelling na ng print if.
Wrong spelling pa yung print if.
Gadali,
Gadali.
sir.
Paspasan kay type da.
Walay T sa one keyboard.
Pagka-paste, sir.
So as what we can see here, running the code, kung walay ampersand, unsay mahitabo? Ni-compile ra, as you see, di ba guys? So what kind of error din ni siya? Ni-run man, ingon ninyo na error. Okay, sige daw. What kind of error would this be? So we have
error.
human error pa.
Logical error,
Oy,
sir.
tulura to ka error, di ba? Syntax error,
Logical.
runtime error, o unsay kinalasan? Logical
sir.
error. So which one would this be? So if we put here a value, okay? If we unsay nabantayan ninyo ni exit largo.
Oh, wala ang uban man.
So, is that a logic error nga mo exit og kalit ang imong application? That's not a logic error. Okay, so
Runtime, sir.
if your program stops while it is not yet finished, that is a runtime error. Okay, so that means ni crash ang imong program. Okay, so maning makita na to guys, so the return value is not equal to 0. That means it have never reached the end of the code where it is supposed to return a value of 0. So the problem is on this part. So take note, okay? Scanf if is an example of a function nga unsa ganito? Pass by reference or pass by value? Okay, wala, nalimot na functions.
Anas canonigo sa reference.
Okay, this is pass by reference. Okay, kay nga naman, ang gipasa nato nga argument or parameter sa function is the address of M1. Okay, so this will allow the scanf function to modify the value of the variable itself. Okay, by using the location of the variable in the memory. So that's why, since it requires a location of the variable in the memory, you make use of the ampersand sign. Okay? So, mo na gamit sa ampersand. So, instead nga, ang value ni M1 may gamito ni scanf, ang address ni M1 mo ay gamito ni scanf. Okay? So, just to show you guys, okay, kung unsa man jud nay value nga gigamit ni scanf, okay? So I will print here %d for M1 and also print it with an ampersand, okay? Para lang ma-differentiate ninyo what's it nga gibuhat ni scanf if you put M1 and kung mugamit ka og ampersand. Okay? So running the code, imagine this is what happens. Okay? So if you're talking about memory locations, okay? Imagine if man to. Imagine nga if this is the memory of your computer, okay? If this is the memory of your computer, M1 is located on this address. Okay? Let's say this is the address. Pila mo na siya? 6,668,084 day. That is the address of M1. Okay? And this is where you are supposed to put the value nga giscan nimo. But if you don't put that ampersand symbol, and where is that address 16? That is supposed to be somewhere here below. Okay? So, when you perform the operation scanf, instead nga anhin niya ibutang ang value nga imuhang giscan, okay? Anhin niya ibutang sa address 16. So, ang pangutan na, kinsa may naa sa address 16? Take note, the computer or your PC might be utilizing this address for the operating system's operation. Okay? So, you are trying to access a space in the memory that is not supposed to be accessed by the programmer. Okay? So, that's why to prevent any further injuries to other programs, your application closes immediately. Okay? So, mao na guys. Okay? So, don't ever forget to put ampersand when you are using scanf. Kay pasabot ana katong value nga imong giscan diri is placed on a location nga wa ka kabaw kung unsay naka-occupy dira. Okay? Delikado kay na. Okay? So, again, I think maura man siguro to, no? Wa na may other problems. Okay? Ang ampersand ug semicolon murag mas daghan magproblema day kang Mr. Umandak, mas may paday unta to kang kuano Mr. Canonigo kay igo ra ta mag-declare unta og unsa to nga variable grade. Okay? So
Dili,
anyway,
sir.
ato lang kan, padayon lang ta. Okay? So
Look at Zoe.
40, then 35, then pag fourth naninguha man nakakuha og 90. Would this grade pass or fail? So 60, 40, 35, and 90. What do you think? Will this pass or fail? Okay, so this will fail. Okay, so dapat di ay, okay, maninguha jud ka permi during your exams. Og tanang major exams, imuha jud ng ipasar para siguradong pasar ka. Okay? Kayo, kung let's say prelim, 60 ra, over 100 nakuha. Nya tanaw nimo ay okay, pasar na akong prelim, pwede ra ko di magtuon og midterm og semifinals. Uy, murag hagbong man ko pag pre-fi maninguha ko og finals bi. Nya nanumbinta. So, getting the average score, okay, still gives you a failing mark. Okay? So, mo na siya guys. Okay? So, ang gigamit niya diri is a different operation nga imbes nga true, fail. Okay? Kung ma-true ang statement, fail maibutang diri, gibali pod niya. So, again, it's another way of looking at the side of the coin. Okay? So still, you're still looking at the coin, but of course, ang perspective nimo, in this case, ang gitanaw niya is kung kanus mo pass. And if you look here, is ang gitanaw niya is kung kanus mo fail. Okay? So again, mo gingon nato nga sa programming, there are always different ways of implementing your program. Mao nang kung magkapareha gani ang code, labi na pati variables pareha, kadudahan na jud kay na siya nga result. Okay? And that guys, okay, ngita tagkuan ka ng mga challenging kaayo nga exercise. Kani guys. You are to display the biggest number from 3 input values. Okay, do you still remember your solution for this one? Okay? Okay. Wala na mo kahinumdum sa flowchart? Asa kanito murag asa man to ninyo na submit? Assignment ba to?
Ako, jam to, sir.
Dili, konto flowcharting pa to siya nga topic na to. Okay. How did you answer this one gani? Okay. Sige daw. Could you again write the flowchart for this one? Okay. So you are to display the biggest number from 3 input values. Okay. Nalimot ko. Asa din nako ni siya gihatag? Kuha na to ni siya. Board work para to ni siya. Okay. Sige daw. I'll try to share my whiteboard. Okay, or the Jamboard. Try to create the flowchart there. Okay. So para mapakita nato how we can convert, okay, the flowchart into a program. Okay. So the Jamboard link is already posted in the chat box. Sige daw. Try ninyo guys o create sa flowchart before we write the code. Okay. So typically, okay, during programming, kung medyo let's say maglibog gani mo how the logic flows, the best solution na guys is to create the flowchart para mas masabtan ninyo what statements are needed and what comes first. Okay? Unsay dapat unang i-execute. You can actually see that clearly here sa ato ang flowchart. Okay? So, come on. I only have 3. There are 32 of you here on the classroom. Come on, participate. Or should I call the name? O ni transfer og account ang uban kay nibalhin og PC. Okay? Sige, ako'y sugod. Char. So, ako'y magsugod. Sugod raman ako. So, kanira po akong ibutang. Start. Okay. So, there are 3 inputs nga gipangayo. And from the 3 inputs, you are supposed to solve and display the biggest number. Okay? So, gagamit atog kwan decision box last time. Okay? So, how would we use the decision box to get the biggest number? And asa naman itong mga documents diri?
How was this? How was this? Writer. Papa's room.
Ate, where are my Paw Patrol toys here? Uy, guys. Hello. Are you still here? Sige, walay mo volunteer. Mangita ko volunteer, ha? Okay. Since walay mo volunteer, I will be choosing the volunteer. Asa naman to? Tora, gisugdan na.
That's a nice name.
Okay. Sige. So, si Sparsha is not here anymore. Manggubat. Okay, so samtang giswat. Kisay mo follow. Okay. Sige. Miss Mayor. Si Miss Manggubat nagsudlanan pa ba sa ubang subjects ninyo yesterday? Okay, hello, Mayor.
There.
Miss Igot.
No, no.
Lag si Igot, sir.
Lag. Okay. Kabantay mong Miss Manggubat, guys. During
Yes,
the
sir.
past
Yes,
few
sir.
days. Ha?
Na siya ganina, sir.
It
Nah,
takes,
Sa
it takes
MMW.
siya quiz.
Ni take o quiz? Sa usang subject?
Ganina morning.
W.
Okay. Pero karon wala gi siya mutong lagi.
Kuan sir, duty niya sir.
Okay.
Kaya, kuan sir ba? Di-chat yan ako sir na. Kuan, ganang makasudra siya kung break
Break.
ra niya sir.
Okay. Sa mo man ni siya katong nag-work sa Qualphone, no? Okay, sige. Sige. Kinsa may mo follow ani, guys. So what's next after reading the input? Okay? So you decide. Okay? So taas sa input 1 2 3. Ato lang ikon ha, ato ang i-shorten, guys, para dili kayo taas sa inyong decision box. Okay? So instead nga input 1 2 3, I'll just represent this with ABC na lang. Okay? Para dili kayo taas ang isuwat ninyo sa decision box. Okay? So I'll just use here A, B, and C. Okay? So what's next? How will we know which is the biggest number? Sige. Try to think of an algorithm. Okay? So imagine again, if you have
You're the giant of the beach.
3 sticks, A, B, and C.
You're the giant of
Okay?
the wide.
How do you compare which stick is bigger? Okay? Do you compare automatically all the 3 sticks together, or do you compare it 2 at a time? Okay? So think like a computer. Okay? So take note, the computer is not that intelligent. Okay? The programmer is the one that teaches the computer how to be intelligent. So that means if the computer is not functioning well, so it's the programmer's fault and not the computer's fault. Okay. Okay. So mga pila ka book conditions ka ato ang magamit ato ani gani. Okay. Sige, sakto to guys, ganina. Okay. What do we need to do first? Okay. So maybe you could try comparing A and B, di ba? So you compare A and B and check which one is bigger. So if A is greater than B, then you compare A with C. Otherwise, you compare B and C. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean, guys, that ang ipakita ni mo dira is if A is bigger, B is bigger, or C is bigger. Take note, ang i-display nimo is ang value mismo. Which value is bigger and not the variable name. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily equates to you stating that A is bigger than B, okay? Or B is bigger than C. But ang i-compare ninyo would actually be, or ang output nga generate would be which value is the biggest. Okay? So need na to di na ipakita kung kinsa nga variable ang nag-hold sa biggest number. What is important is you can display the biggest number nga gi-input sa user. Okay? So again, compare it, guys. 2 variables at a time. Okay? You were able to answer this last time. Okay? I could remember that.
Mana ko sir sa
Sa gibutang.
nasa line page.
Ha?
Nasa Picas page sir.
Picas page. Asa ang Picas page? Asa nga page? Sa Jamboard?
Oh,
Naaday dire. Okay. So galain-lain day mong answer nga naabot na 7 pages niya ra. Okay, so let's see on the second page. Can we move the code a bit? Okay. So as what we can see here, ang giuna is gi-compare si A is greater than B. And unsa man ni siya isunod? Unsa ni siya? A is greater than C. Okay? So gigamitan og duha ka condition. If true, that means A is bigger. So you display A. Otherwise, gi-compare if B is greater than ano ni siya? A and B is greater than C. So you print B. Otherwise, C would be the biggest one. Okay? So pwede pod. Okay? So here, as you can see guys, is an example of combining the operators, relational, and your logical operator. Okay? So medyo taas-taas pod hinuon jud ang iyahang gigamit. Okay? So if we look at the implementation, if we follow the flowchart, gigamit og A. So diri gagamit pod yung B1, B2. Okay? So tanaw na to. Asa may implementation ani? Kanino? Para ma-follow na to ang variables nga gigamit. So A is greater than B and A is greater than C. Okay? So the largest is ang value ni A. Okay? So the largest is ang value ni B. Here is nagamit og else if. Okay. While dire unsa man ni siya? Og nihilak man good ang baki. Okay? Here is an example nga gagamit og if. Multiple if nga statement. Okay? So, kani. This is a very good example that we can check. Okay? So, as what we can see here, okay, let's go with the first implementation, guys. Okay? So, base ani. Okay, nga code. Mao ba ni siya, no? Am I selecting it correctly? Is this the one? Ang nag-drawing sa solution for this? Makita ba ninyo kung di-share, no, guys? Okay. So, mo ni ang implementation base sa code. Okay. So, running it. Okay. Yara. Compile, og y error, and compile and run. Okay. Enter the first number, scan, then I conditional F11. Okay. Og nikalit lang siya og exit ang pangutana nga naman. So let's try to debug. Okay. Og nagdubli ang return. Mao-di. Okay, so unsay problema ani? So there is a problem with the statement block. Wait, sa asa naman to? Copy daw na to tanan. Okay, so enter the first number. Okay, so you have, let's say, 45, the next number, 67, and the second number is 40. Okay, so the largest number is 67. Okay, so using that flowchart and the code created, we were able to answer the code, okay, using the else if statement. Okay, so advanced kaayo gagamit nag else if. I was thinking nga mo gamit sa dayunta mo og if and else. Okay, could you solve that problem using a normal if and else? Okay, so actually mo ni siya ang shortcut. Okay, so you can actually remove this else if nga statement na. Okay, kay this is redundant. You can actually just put there else. Kay basically, as you can see guys, if it doesn't fall into this category wherein A is greater than B and A is greater than C, and it doesn't also fall onto B is greater than A and B is greater than C, then that means C is greater than B and greater than C. So you don't need to put that condition anymore, and that is what we use the else statement is for. Okay? So when you create your program, I would suggest lang nga ingania lang og format guys, okay? Para you can easily see, okay? Asa ang else ug asa ang else if ninyo. Okay? Sige daw.
Sir, pwede ra sa
Um,
dula ng B is greater than A.
B is greater than A kani?
Pwede ra wala. Greater ra B greater than C.
Kay ni false naman diri no.
Mm.
Okay? Pwede ra pud na siya. Okay? But lagi ang style mo gud ni when you are using else if, you need to be very specific with your conditions. Okay? So kabaw naman sa tang dili man siya musud diri, di ba? Kay essentially since this is already evaluated to be false, take note guys, posible manggod nga A ni false ni siya nga statement because of A might be less than C. Di ba? So what if diri day B is greater than A? Naka-gets ba mo?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, we are using here ampersand. So if you evaluate the statement, both condition should be true. Di ba? Para musod dire. But what if, let's say, this is true and this is false? Okay? So makalimtan nimo ang condition wherein you should make sure that B is also greater than A. Okay? So this is us using else if. Now, base ani nga flowchart, okay? Ang gigamit man sad niya nga condition good is duha pod nga condition. Okay? Now, if we look here on the solution, kang kisa ning solution?
Canonigo na kay sir.
Kang canonigo. Okay? Asa man imuhang flowchart ani canonigo? Okay? So, let's put this on another page. Okay? Sige. Nabali na hinuon. Supposed to be, you write the flowchart first before the code. Okay? So in that way, makita ninyo how the logic runs in the program. Okay? So, could someone here draw the tawag ani? The flowchart for this one? Okay. So, if ato ang subayon ang iyahang flowchart, ako na lang kay murag daghan mang maawawon diri. O okay. So, we have here read A, B, and C. Okay, this would I drawing. And then, ang una niyang i-compare, as you can see, is if A is greater than B. Okay? So, if true, unsay buhaton niya, it will then check, okay, if A is also greater than C. Okay? And, based on niya, you can then display A. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So, mana siya for that part. Okay? If the statement is true. Okay? So, na ba siya laing i-display? Okay? True raman no. Ang false, wala. So that means sa itong flowchart, it would look something like this. Okay? Nya, another condition nga ihang gipakita dire is else. If, unsa ni siya? B is greater than C. Okay? So if B is greater than C, unsa na ihang butang? Then if true, then it will print what? It will print, oops, it will print the value of B. Okay? Otherwise, kung false, it will print the value of C. Okay? And where does it end? So it ends here. Okay? And di na makita si end. Okay? So, unsay makita ninyo nga problem aning implementation, guys? Okay? So if A is greater than B, if true, then anha pa niya i-print nga A is the biggest number if A is greater than C. Okay? Nagkulang ang condition, di ba? So if A is not greater than C, unsa may pasabutan na? Okay? So, supposed to be na kay condition dire, di ba? Or not condition, but na kay statement nga i-print nimo si C if that is false. Okay? So you consider that option also. Okay? Na kitaan ba ninyo guys ang ang concept pod ani niya? Okay? So as what we can see here, okay? So kung ato ang i-follow ang kaning code ni kinsay ka answer ani? Okay? So if we follow this statement, okay, and implement that, okay. So again, it would always be nice if you have a flow chart, okay, besides you when you are working with the code. Okay, so pwede ra na to. Sige, ano na lang para na A, B, ug C. So again, we start with the condition A is greater than B. So makita na to dire. Okay, ang problema is ang awaha. You have to be very careful also about the way you close your statement. Okay, so I would suggest, okay, you properly indent your code, okay, para di mo maglibog guys as to kinsay pares ni kinsa. Okay? So as you can see, di ba, aw ang if nga statement. Asa ang iyahang statement block. Gi-cover niya tanan. Okay? So supposed to be kani nga statement is kung true, it seems like what if false? Kadit lang guys ha. Okay, sorry for that. So again, if we interpret, hello guys, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as you can see here, this would essentially give us an implementation with if else lang. Okay? Kay usa ra man ka condition nga ato ang gibutang dira, wala ta magdubli-dubli og condition. In this way, okay, actually kuan naman sa din siya god kanang it's like implementing using katong else if. Okay? Pero kanila nga atong gibuhat, ato alang yung gi-breakdown into more specific. Okay? Like wa nato gi-combine ang duha ka kondisyon. Okay? We are just simply combining or evaluating two values at a time. Okay? So, as what we can see here, ang unang condition nato is for A greater than B. So, as you can see, when I close this, okay, unsay nabantayan nato? Okay? Ang tibuok statements nga else na wagtang. Di ba? So, what's the problem with that one? It's because kani guys, if you try to highlight this open curly brace asa ihang paris, ang paris niya naabot diri sa return. Lapas para sa return. Okay? So, supposed to be kinsa may cover nga statement ani nga condition. So if true, di ba, it should cover this part of the code. Kaning i-compare pa niya si A is greater than C. Okay? So you should also include that here on your code. Okay? Nga dapat makita pud nato, okay, sa program nato o sa flowchart nga magkasinabot ang duha. Okay? So if true, take note, mo na i-perform niya. Okay? So mo na ato ang makita diri. Okay? Nga compare si A is greater than C, nya na true ug na ay false. Okay? And obviously, kung false, this would be our equivalent to the else na statement, which is kani. Sa else statement, unsay covered niya nga statements, kani sila. So again, sa else na statement, asa ang partner ani niya, makita nato it's now correct. So if you use this guys, okay, kanimuhang IDE, you can actually see here nga properly structured ang imong program. Okay, when you use if else, you will see that if you collapse that, okay, it will include those statements that are to be done within the if nga condition. Makita po nimo diri tanang statements nga when you close that, okay, ma-include siya sa statement block ni else. Okay, so that's one way of checking guys. Okay, when you have properly constructed your if else nga statement. Okay, so again, when coding, this really won't impact the evaluation or the compilation nga imuhang isuwat siya in this manner. Okay, as what I've told you, C doesn't really care about the spaces. Okay, you can write your program all in this nga parihara sila tanan og inya. Pero that will make the code what? Unreadable. Okay, and it will be hard for you as a programmer to trace the code. Okay? So something like this, di ba? Pwede man nimo inganion pagsuwat imong code nga parehas lag indention tanan. Now if you look at this, is it readable ang code? Would you be able to easily distinguish which statements belong to which statement? Okay? Because if I run this, again, it will compile properly. Okay? Pero naapaday kulang ug unsa may kulang ani. Public int printf o kulang day siya o colon. Okay? Tura. Okay? So, kana siya guys, okay? So, to make your code readable, okay, kanang ma-identify nimo properly asa ang content sa statement block, always indent it once, okay? Just like, for instance, kani. Para makita nimo kinsa ang inclusive sa usa ka statement block. So, dire, another if statement, so you indent sad usa ang iyahang mga statements nga i-perform. Okay? So, makita nato dire sa sulod. Okay? So, at this, okay, mas properly structured and readable ang imong code. Tigtanaw na to. Okay, so again, kung subayon na to, A is greater than C, this is the condition for that. Then, if true, i-print that A is greater. Otherwise, okay, pasabutan na, mas dako si C. So, kinsa may ato ang i-display dire. Okay, si B ba? Murag si C man siguro, no? Kay, kana, C. Ato na nang gi-check. Okay? So, at this part of our code, okay, as what we can see, if A is greater than B, then there's that possibility that A is the biggest number. So, we compare it with C again. Okay? So, if indeed A is still greater than C, then A is the biggest number. Otherwise, it could be C, my biggest number. Okay? So, of course, if A is not greater than B, sa else, unsa may pasabot aning sa else, guys? Unsay covered ka niya nga conditions? It could either be B, di ba? Is greater than A, or it could be that B is equal to A. Di ba? Mao na ang consider nato diri sa else. Okay? So if B is greater than A or B is equal to A, musud siya ani nga statement. So again, walay kaso if A and B is equal, because that simply means that you can still display the largest number, which is B, which is also equal to A, di ba? So if B is greater than C, then you display B, but if C is greater than B, then you display the value of C. Okay, so again, to check. Okay, so if butangan na to o ingana nga value, so what is the biggest number? Okay, so kung naa kay flowchart, guys, ang nakanindot sa na flowchart is you can actually trace what really is happening. Okay, so 3 and 4, A and B, mas dako man si B, so musud siya diri nga condition. Then comparing B and C, is B still bigger than A? True. So, ma-display na to dire. Okay? This, guys, is what we call as a nested if statement. Okay? So, when you say nested, that means you can actually include another if statement within an if statement. Okay, so can I also add another if statement inside this if statement? Yes, pwede gyapon na siya. Okay, this is what we call as nesting. Okay, hello, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so asa naman tong page? So kani, okay, ang gibuhat po sa inyong classmate dere usa is na lesson niya ang number of tawag ani nested if statement by using else if. Okay. Oh, ngano man ni? Tara. Okay. Hi. So anyway, mo na siya, guys, usa sa application sa asa naman to? Sa if else nga statement. Okay? So naambak-ambak naman hinuon ta. Okay? So mo ni ang kwan tendency sa mahitabo if let's say for instance uh, wala ta mo subay sa ato ang discussion kay mohagbong manggod na mura taga-review ani guys. So anyway, that is I think murag na-appeal ba na siya nested statements dito sa ato ang kwan code chum?
Wala, sir.
Wala. Okay? So I think at least kana na-add na to na siya nga topic nga you can actually include okay this so-called if statement within another if statement. So again, that would be possible given conditions nga ma-encounter ninyo which is something like asa naman to? Asa naman to ato ang dara. Okay? When you encounter something like this, okay? Nga after another conditional statement, okay? Kung mag-need pa gani na og another conditional statement, that means it is an implementation of what we call as the nested if statement, okay? So you can put multiple if statement within another if statement, okay? And sige. So mauna siya guys. Okay, so another one mga concept mga na-introduce sa inyo ha is kaning ato ang gitawag nga if else, okay? So sa if else nga statement basically okay, ang gihatag dira is to give you an optional thing to do, okay, whenever certain conditions are met. Now, nakabantay ko that there is someone who have utilized this in the code asa man to. Kani? Okay. What's the difference between making use of multiple if compared sa paggamit og else if? Okay? So if you have noticed this, kana ato ang padakan. Okay. So kung maka-notice mo guys, basically pare-pareha og conditions nga gigamit, di ba? But the other one is simply utilizing purely if nga statement. Okay? Now what's the difference of using multiple if statement as compared sa if else statement? Okay? So good thing na ini-answer ani, so we can also review on this. The difference between the two guys is that when you use multiple if statement in this manner, that means if this condition is not true, then it will be checking the next statement, di ba? Musod siya ani nga statement. Then it evaluates the conditions again. Okay? Now, what if sa first statement pa lang na true na ang statement? Okay? So, di ba ang mahitabo is that it will be executing the code inside the condition kani largest is equal to %d a. So i-display niya ang correct answer. The thing about this guys manggod is that since you are still using an if statement, after niya ma-execute, okay, kana si kani nga statement, after niya ma-execute, it will still evaluate this statement. It will still evaluate the next if statement. Okay? Which is again, di na unta necessary. And for the computer, it is a waste of time. Okay? Now, unsa man sa ding sa if else if supposed to be this is else na. Okay? So let's try. Hello, can you still see this guys? Can't sync my changes. Oh, what happened? Okay. Og nawala. Og nibalik. Okay. So unsay kalahian ani niya nga implementation. Okay? So if you're using multiple else if, okay, to cover the other conditions sa imong code, Okay? One big advantage of using this compared to this one is that if sa sugod pa lang ma-evaluate as true ang statement, it will not evaluate the rest of the statement anymore, thereby saving more time and more energy para sa imong processor. Okay? So again, ang idea ni Nia is that, let's say, when you are searching for someone in the school campus, okay? Kung sa gate, sa guard pa lang, sa guardhouse, makita na gani nimo imong gipangita, do you still need to check the engineering building or the CAS building to look for the person that you are looking for, wherein in the first place nakita na nimo sa sugod pa lang sa line? Diba? You could do that, but it's not necessary anymore. And that is what is happening here. Kaning gagamit mo multiple if. Even though the output is correct, okay, it will still be a waste of energy and time for the CPU. Okay? So it is a bad practice when you are doing that. Okay? So dapat unta, when you create your code as much as possible, okay, you are also helping the processor do unnecessary stuff. And the else if could be of use for situations nga ing ana. Okay? Nga kung daghan kang condition i-test, and given that if one of those conditions are met, you don't need to check other conditions again, you make use of if else. But if the situation asks that you must always check each of this condition, like for instance, this is a different condition, this is a different condition, then kana, pwede na kamo gamit og multiple if. But if let's say the situation requires that once ma-evaluate nimo as true ang first na condition and you don't need to evaluate the rest of the condition, then use if else for that. Okay? So, mao na siya guys. Okay? So just like for instance, kana bang problems like imuhang i-categorize ang grade as to low, unsa na siya, needs improvement, satisfactory, very satisfactory, ug excellent. Okay? Di ba naman tayo gitawag na range sa value sa ato ang grade. So instead of using if nga statement for that, multiple if, you use multiple, or rather, you use if else if na statement. Okay, so yay. It's time naman. Okay. How about the switch statement? Any last word before we exit? Okay, nasabtan ra ba ang case nga statement? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, sa switch statement, unsa ra to'y dapat natong ibutang diri? Unsay pwede magamit nga data type for the switch statements?
Character, sir.
Character, yes, pwede. Unsa pa? Can I use float? Okay, can I use float para sa switch statement? Okay. Na ba ni diri? Okay, can I use float for the switch statement? Okay. So, when using the switch statement, guys, as much as possible, ang imong i-compare dira should be integer type nga variables. So, what are the integer type variables? Of course, ang integer. Characters, okay, those are integer type. Okay, mga whole numbers. So, di ka pwede makagamit og floating point numbers when using switch. Kaya ang switch are only good for comparing equal operation. Okay? So, pwede rin na gamiton nimo for equals. Di ka pwede mo gamit og switch statement if the condition requires nga naay greater than or less than. So anyway, it's already time. Okay, so we'll continue this next meeting. And next meeting, can we have a short quiz up to sa if, else if, o nested if statements? Okay, so appeal ang functions. Okay, quiz lang ta ha before we continue with the discussion on selection. Do mubo naman lang kining selection.
Asa mag-quiz, sir?
Hmm?
Asa mag-quiz?
Asa ta mag-quiz? Diri sa classroom. Okay, magkita sa ta sa
Good job, sir.
classroom. Ha?
Gamit may code jam, sir.
Dili. Okay, so kung sa ta concepts. Okay, so we'll use Google Form for that. So make sure your camera is working during the exam. Okay, so before we go, can we first turn on our camera first, please? Okay, so I'll be uploading these notes para naalang mo yung reference. Okay, so there are also problems here that you might want to answer in advance. Okay. So, pakibasa lang sa ani niya. Okay? So, concepts. Wala lang sa type programming na exam. Okay? Concepts lang sa. So, I'll be uploading this para for your reference. I-appeal na lang nato ni ang tibuok conditional statements. Okay? And apart from this, also some in CodeCham. Okay? I-appeal po na to. Okay. So, Valyesado, De La Victoria, Carbos. Okay, where na you? Okay. O si Carbos, nagdual. Okay, asa may imuhang gamit ani Miss Carbos? Okay. Miss Igot, are you still with us? Tora. Okay. Bilya Campa.
Gab.
Okay.
Sir, Wednesday ta mag-quiz, sir.